for the department, Ms. Lewis.
Katarina Lewis, Belong Permanency Specialist.
Irene Acosta, attorney for the child.
Marcus McLemore, Hill Country Castle, guardian ad litem for the child.
All right. I think that's everybody. We've got some
Charles
people.
will be attorney for the mother for the purpose of mediation only.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Weatherby. And then we have some other CASA people observing and some Belong people observing. Cody has expressed to some and to me that he kind of prefers to be called Lucas. So I think we can refer to him as Lucas for purposes of this hearing. So I have read the CASA report and the Belong report. And I don't know if you want to ask questions, Mr. McKeska, or if you want to we can open it to ask Ms. Lewis if she has anything she wants to add or any changes made with the report.
Your preference, Judge. Whichever you would prefer today.
Well, I'll just start asking questions, and if anybody has anything else they want to add, they can. How do you think that Lucas is doing, Ms. Lewis?
I think that he's doing very well. I'm really glad that he graduated. I know that was a huge accomplishment for him. He is now at Settlement Home in Austin. We're adjusting. I know, like you said, his behaviors, but I haven't, gotten any incident reports, so that's good. Let's see. I know that his goal, he really does want to go into the military if he can. So I'm excited to hear that he's going to go see a recruiter on Monday. That's awesome. And then also just getting a job, I know is something that he wants to work on as well.
I asked him about his preferences for his parents' relationship, and I think that it's fair to say he kind of has mixed feelings about that. I do think that a child his age is responsible enough to make some decisions about what kind of contact they want, and if he wants to reach out to either one of his parents, then I don't have any objection to it. Does Belong have any objection to the contact?
No, I just want to make sure it's appropriate and that mom is being nice to Cody or Lucas. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I agree with that. What about medical and dental? I know there was an issue with dental.
Yes, dental. We have an appointment with the orthodontist on, I believe, July 1st or something like that. So we should get an answer about braces. So that's good.
Okay.
I know Cody will have to have surgery once he turns 18. I guess your jaw does not finish developing until you're 18. So that is something that we'll have on the radar because I know his jaw he's going to have surgery on. But other than that, medical wise, he's doing well. He's only on medications as needed, for anxiety and things like that. He's expressed his goal is to not be on medications if he doesn't have to be. So I know Settlement Home is working on that with him as well. And he's done really well.
That's great. Mr. McKeska, do you have any additional questions for Ms. Lewis?
No, Judge.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes. Are there any plans for Lucas to learn to drive?
Yes, there is. We have found a driver's license course, and we just need to get the payment done, and so we can get that going. So I will work on that.
Okay, good. And he'll be working on that this summer?
Yes, he's a little nervous is what he told me, but I know he's ready and he can do it.
Okay. Is there anything that Lucas needs help with at Settlement Home? With adjusting or anything?
I don't believe so. I think it's just an adjustment. It's a lot less restrictive than most of the placements he's been at. I mean, he can go off campus and do a bunch of things. So I think just learning how to handle all that. And I'm going to come see him actually after this hearing and bring a bunch of his belongings and stuff to him as well. So I will ask, and if there's anything else he needs, I will let you all know.
All right. And he has been visiting with his sister, correct?
Yes.
And how have those visits been going?
good. I think he told me he enjoyed his visit last week. They had, I think, of like 4 days together overnight in San Antonio, and that went well. And Cody has actually expressed that he wants to visit his brother. However, brother is in Washington, coming back to the States. So I just think that's something we'll all need to talk about, but we're open to that, getting him up there.
Okay, good. I think those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
All right, anything from anybody else? What kind of report would you like to make, Miss Acosta?
I am incredibly proud of Lucas. I think that given this case has been going on for quite some time now, and the fact that Lucas graduated from high school and was able to complete that and is now looking to the future to figure out, what's next is awesome. I know that moving from a Yanti to settlement home, there's always an adjustment period. And so I think just figuring out what the next step is and figuring out how to get to an even less restrictive placement is important. I think everyone also needs to help support the goal of, if he wants to go into the military, we need to figure out how to make that happen. So I'm really happy that he has an appointment with a recruiter for the Navy. I do know that he expressed concerns that he wouldn't be able to get into the military at the age of 17. So there's potentially, maybe a year of something else that might need to happen. But I think talking to a recruiter is a good thing, because I don't know what the requirements are for every branch of the military, but I know that with parental consent, you can enter the military sometimes at the age of 17. It just depends on what the requirements are. So
Right.
I think getting all of the information he needs for that is important. I think mediation would be good. I don't know what good it would, if the mother wants to be a part of the mediation, I think mediation would be good. But I also agree that Lucas needs to drive whether or not there's going to be contact with mom. I think that they have, enough wherewithal to determine whether or not that contact is going to be something that is positive or negative for them. But I think Lucas is doing really, really well. I'm very,
That's
very proud of him.
from everybody. That's so good to know. I admit I was really worried a couple of years ago. I thought, I just don't know what we're going to do, because it just seemed like nothing was going right. But it's like I said earlier, he's come a long way. Mr. McLemore, what can you add on behalf of CASA?
Pretty much what everybody else has said. I'm just extremely proud of Lucas. He's come such a long way. And when one of the placements fell apart in this day, I was extremely proud of Lucas for the way he reacted to that and handled that and didn't have a meltdown. That was almost shocking, the maturity that he showed. So I'm very proud of him. And I always join our visits. The only thing I'll say is, Lucas, you can call me. It doesn't have to be just communication when I come to visit you like every 2 months. I'm always there if you need something.
Yeah, that's another reason I wanted Lucas on this call, because I think that sometimes you don't know, when you're the kid, you don't know that there's a lot of people that really are concerned, and that their job is to do whatever they can to help you. And so everybody who's on this call today is here because they want to see you succeed, Lucas, and they want to help you as much as they possibly can. So I think it's good for you to see everybody's faces and know that all of them are just a phone call away, basically. And I encourage you to call if you need anything. So I do want to order the case to mediation. I do have a question, though. The father, I would think, needs to be involved with this too. Does the department know where he is? How to locate him?
I don't off the top of my head, but I will certainly dig into his location where he's incarcerated, and see if we can get him to participate as well.
Right, because I looked on a prior trial here date we had, and the parents were both named possessory conservators, with the department being the managing conservator. So both parents do still have parental rights. So we need to address both of them. Anything from anybody else? Anything anybody else wants to add at this time? Well, again, I'm really, really proud of you, Lucas. And I also want to say on the record that I appreciate everybody accommodating my request to meet with Lucas and scrambling around. And I think there was some confusion. That's entirely my fault because I was kind of last minute. And I told Lucas that, if I would be happy to arrange a meeting outside of court another time if that's something that he would like. If not, it's, it doesn't have to happen, but I'm available if that needs to happen. And I also told him that he is welcome to attend any future hearings. So this time the court will find that the current placement is appropriate for Lucas and that it's in his best interest to stay in that placement, that this placement is meeting all of his needs at the current time, and the court will order that placement to continue. I'm going to also order that this case be referred to mediation. Obviously, the department will need to reach out to both parents to set something up, but we really need to get this done prior to the next hearing. So I would say hopefully within about 30 days, y'all can at least come up with some dates. And Mr. Weatherby is available to represent the mother for purposes of mediation. And I don't know what we'll need to do about the father. So let's see. Our next hearing will be November 15th at 9:30. That's again for another permanency review. Is there anything that anybody else feels needs to be addressed at this point?
So Judge, Mr. Anderwold is located at the San Saba unit with TDCJ.
Okay, good. So y'all can get notice to him there. And I guess we probably need to appoint an attorney for the mediation, unless, depending on what he wants to do. And if that's the case, just contact Ms. Greenlee and she can give you whoever's next on the list to
Yes,
be
ma'am.
appointed. Anything from anybody else? Again, thank you all, and thank you to Lucas's placement for making him available today. I do think it's important that the child who is the subject of these lawsuits be able to be present if they wish to, and to be able to speak their mind, if whatever that may be, or ask questions. So anything else you want to add at this time, Lucas? Any questions? Confusion about anything anybody said? Okay. Well, it's great to see you, and I'm really proud of all you've accomplished. So, and I hope you've heard that from everybody, that everybody feels the same way. So, if there's nothing further, I know that there's another hearing at 10 o'clock. So, if there's nothing further, then I will excuse you all until we come back in November. Thanks again, everybody, for making it possible for Lucas to attend. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
I didn't want to bring it up while the child was on the screen, but the father had tendered an affidavit of relinquishment way back.
Okay. I knew there was something about it, but I couldn't find it in my notes and I couldn't remember.
The department never acted on it. So,
Okay. Well, maybe Drake can look into that and see.
and he had a lawyer appointed. It's she's from San Antonio, and the name escapes me, but
Okay.
blonde lady that's.
Oh, I know, it was Carol Collins.
Yeah.
Carol was his attorney.
Yeah.
So she may still be appointed. I don't know. This is kind of
I know it just kind of dropped off somehow.
Yeah,
So, okay, well, thanks for that. I appreciate that information because I just couldn't remember.
I didn't think telling anybody that he'd filed an affidavit of
No,
relinquishment.
I understand that. So,
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave the meeting now and let you all go on, but that's good to know. Thank you, Mr. Weatherby.
Department of County Protective Services versus Tabitha Martinez and Daniel Duenes in the 454th Judicial District Court of Medina County, Texas. Court is streaming from Kendall County via Zoom and YouTube. Are there any objections?
No, Judge.
With that, Mr. McKeska, would you please begin the announcements?
Yes, Judge. Drake McKeska, attorney for the department.
Desiree
Mr.
Flores, FBSS worker or supervisor, I'm sorry.
Richard Salter, attorney for the father. Sir, will you unmute and announce, please?
We couldn't hear you.
Oh, Daniel Dueñas.
Marco Cabrera, I'm attorney for the mother, Miss Tabitha Martinez. She's present. Miss Martinez, could you say your name?
Tabitha Martinez.
Thank you.
Deborah Fuller, attorney for the child, Your Honor, present and ready.
Krista Rosales, investigator with the department.
Javier Hernandez, the family-based worker.
Adrienne Mendez, the PAT educator assigned to the case.
I know the attorneys have had an opportunity to confer. Do you have any sort of agreement or do we need to have a hearing?
No, we have an agreement, Judge.
Okay. Right now, I have this in my system as court-ordered services. Is this a TIF?
It's a TFF case, yes, Judge.
Okay. And what are the terms and conditions of your agreement?
Yes, Judge. The parents have agreed to complete the services that are included on their family plan of service, which specifically include the family engaging in, I believe, with brief strategic family therapy. I'm getting head shakes saying no. I know originally it was a parents as teachers case, but then the family plan says brief strategic family therapy. So we may have to get some clarification on what is being asked. And then a drug and alcohol assessment following any and all recommendations from the assessment and random drug testing.
All right. Is that your understanding of the agreement, Mr. Cabrera?
Yes, Your Honor, it is.
Mr. Saldivar? Mr. Saldivar, is that your understanding of the agreement?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute. Yes, Your Honor. The only issue, and we did discuss this with the department and the parties. The father works in HVAC, so they do have him out of town frequently. So just asking to work with father's work schedule. And he's also checking in with pretrial and probation, and so just to work, alongside with him checking in. He will sign any releases for any drug tests for probation or pretrial, if the department needs that.
Okay. Ms. Fuller?
Yes, Your Honor, that's my understanding of the agreement.
Okay. Mr. Dueñas and Ms. Martinez, did you hear the agreement that Mr. McKeska stated on the record?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand what's expected of you?
Yes, sir.
Have you had the opportunity to discuss this with your attorneys?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Are you entering into the voluntary agreement?
Yes, sir.
Were you forced in any way or made any promises to get you to agree to this?
No,
No.
sir.
All right. Are you asking the court to approve your voluntary agreement today?
Yes, sir.
Let's get whether it's the brief strategic therapy or parents as teachers, let's get that ironed out right now. So who would be
It's parents as teachers judgment. I've been communicating with Ms. Flores.
Okay, so parents as teachers, we got that cleared up. All right, then. Whose affidavit was this? Was this yours, Mr. Rosales?
Yes, Judge.
All right. Ms. Rosales, you heard the agreement. Do you believe that these services and this agreement is in the best interest of the child?
Yes, Judge.
Do you believe that the agreement is necessary and these services are necessary to alleviate the effects of abuse or neglect that has occurred reduce the
Yes.
continuing danger to the physical health or safety of the child caused by an act or failure to act of the parent, or to reduce the substantial risk of abuse or neglect caused by an act or failure to act of the parent?
Yes.
Okay. And to your knowledge, is everything that's in your affidavit as of today still true and correct?
Yes.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Rosales?
I have no questions, Your Honor. I just have a statement.
Go ahead, Ms. Fuller.
I just want to say that I feel like the parents are really going to work the program and that Mr. Hernandez was very good with them going over all the services. They've provided protective daycare for them. So Ms. Martinez can work and not worry about having a babysitter, and they've lifted the safety plan. But I feel really confident that they are going to work these services.
Well, good. I hope that that is a good indicator of what we're going to see when we come back. Our compliance hearing is going to be August the 20th, 2024 at 9:30. August 20th, 2024 at 9:30, and the court will make the following findings: that a child has been a victim of abuse or neglect, or is at substantial risk of abuse or neglect. There is a continuing danger to the physical health or safety of the child caused by an act or failure of the parent. And that will continue to exist unless the person or the parents participate in services requested by the department, which the court has hereby granted, as the services listed on the family planner service has been filed with the court, specifically to include a drug and alcohol assessment, to follow any recommendations, participate in random drug testing, and do the parents as teachers program. Mr. Dueñez and Ms. Martinez, can either one of you afford to pay for an attorney in this suit?
No, sir.
You counsel because you right now you've got indigency status, and one of the things I have to do today is make sure you're still indigent. So if you said no, sir, you can't afford an attorney?
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Okay. Would it put you in a financial hardship if you had to pay for an attorney for this suit?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any money saved or anything that you could sell that would help you to pay for an attorney?
No, sir.
All right. Are either of you receiving any type of governmental assistance?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, what I also heard earlier from Mr. Saldivar is that Mr. Dueñez works out of town a lot, and there was talk about daycare and babysitting so that mom didn't have to worry about that. So based on what's before the court, I'm going to continue their status as indigent and maintain the appointments of Mr. Cabrera and Mr. Saldivar on this case to represent Ms. Martinez and Mr. Dueñez respectively. Now, I want to make sure you understand something, parents. This is everybody else has heard me say this more times than they probably want to hear. This is the least restrictive way that you can get services through the department to help you and your family and your children. Okay? If you don't do this, you don't follow these orders, then it gets worse as you go along. It gets more restrictive, and it can even turn into legal intervention that changes the conservatorship of your children, which means that you wouldn't have the right to say what happened with your children anymore. Your rights to your children would be restricted. This service, this type of case, serves to avoid that. But it's only going to avoid it if you do like what Ms. Fuller thinks you're going to do, and I hope you do, is do everything that you're told, cooperate. When you run into a problem, you talk to your caseworker, you talk to your attorney, you get these things done. And then when we come back on August the 20th, I'm going to get a report that you've made a lot of progress and that you're engaged. Okay?
Yes, sir.
That's a long time from now. That's 2 months from now. So a lot should happen in the next 2 months. Okay? Mr. Dueñez, and I want everybody to know this, as long as you're engaging and you're not making excuses, then if something comes up for work and we come back on the 20th and I hear that you had things that you missed because you were at work and everybody confirmed you were at work, I'm not going to hold that against you. But I want you to understand, if that becomes an excuse and you're missing stuff for other reasons and you're missing everything because you're always at work, then that's going to be a problem too. So you got to find that balance. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anything I failed to address?
No, Judge.
Okay. Thank you all for your time and your service. I'm glad you were able to work something out. Good luck to you, parents. And if nothing further, all parties are excused.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Judge.
you.
Yes.
We're here for a compliance hearing. We had an agreement for a TFF case, and Mr. Hernandez, how are we doing at this point in time?
At this point in time, Miss Tabitha completed her outpatient treatment with South Texas Rural Health Services on July the 18th. Mr. Dwayne is engaged in his outpatient services with South Texas Rural Health in mid-July, and he's actively been attending weekly. They've also been engaged in the Parents as Teachers program with Miss Lisette, and they've been doing sessions weekly, pending any scheduling issues the parents might have. As far as the drug testing, both parents had been drug testing with pretrial services. They had been testing weekly and they were both negative. July 26th, Mr. Duenas was supposed to go complete a random UA for me and he failed to attend. On August the 16th, he also tested positive at pretrial services for cocaine and THC. So as of now, Mr. Duenas is not in compliance.
Okay. And did you discuss with him the ramifications of that?
Yes, sir.
You believe that based on your discussions with him that he has a good understanding of how that affects this case and how that affects moving forward?
Yes, sir, I do.
Right. And has he expressed a willingness to continue forward and deal with the positive drug tests and continue to work on outpatient?
Yes, sir, he has.
Do you believe that outpatient is still appropriate at this time?
I believe it is still appropriate because of his work schedule. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with this pretrial. I did get in contact with his pretrial officer, and I believe they're pending pulling his bond. So I don't know how that's going to affect him.
Okay.
But I don't have any control over that.
Right. Otherwise, Ms. Martinez is in full compliance?
Yes, Your Honor, she's been in full compliance.
Okay. And child is doing well?
Yes, Amina's doing well. There was an ECI completed on her. She did qualify for services. The referral was transferred to Bexar County since that's where she attends daycare. And I believe she has been, mother completed the intake process with Easter seals for that.
Are you asking the court to continue the TFF case on the docket at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
You believe that's in the best interest of Amina?
Yes, sir, I do.
Mr. McCaskill, do you have any questions for Mr. Hernandez?
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Cabrera?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Saldivar?
Do you believe that the father understands the concerns of the continued drug use?
I've went over it with him before. I stressed it again after Friday's results. So I'm sure he's aware.
Okay. And does he understand what he needs to do to overcome the concerns of the department?
Yes, sir.
Pass the witness, Judge.
Any other witnesses, Mr. McCaskill?
Your Honor, I have a couple questions.
I'm sorry, Ms. Fuller. That's my
okay.
fault. I apologize. Go ahead.
Mr. Hernandez, did you speak with the outpatient service provider to determine whether Mr. Duenas needs to continue an outpatient or if another OSAR needs to be completed?
So because he tested positive, he basically is going to restart like back at the beginning.
So the provider doesn't feel like inpatient is necessary?
I don't know yet. He'll have to complete a reassessment.
Okay, so is that being set up for him?
Yes, ma'am. That will be set up for him.
Okay. And Ms. Martinez, she actually even agreed to do counseling. It wasn't on her plan, but she thought that would be beneficial to her.
Yes, that is correct. She's been engaged with a counselor on her own. And she's been attending sessions weekly with her.
Okay.
And as needed.
She's doing very well with all of her services and with taking care of the baby.
Yes, ma'am.
I did notice that they requested an autism screening. Has that been done? I wasn't aware of that until recently.
That was supposed to be completed through her primary care.
Do you know if it's been done?
Tabitha?
Well,
It
I'll let,
hasn't been done yet. She has an appointment tomorrow, but that's just to update about the speech therapy and everything, just to give the doctor a rundown on everything that's going on with her. And then later on this week, that's whenever they're going to do the autism screening, but they're going to give me a referral so I can take her to have that done.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Any other witnesses, Mr. McCaskill?
No, Your Honor.
Anybody else have any other witnesses or questions?
No, Your Honor.
No. Ms. Fuller, what are your thoughts?
Well, Amina's doing really well, and Ms. Martinez has really been engaged. I mean, she's been engaged from the beginning, very devoted to her child and engaging in the services. I'm hoping Mr. Duenas can turn it around, but I am concerned about, missing drug tests and then having a positive and then going back to outpatient. So that's my concern with Mr. Duenas, but Ms. Martinez is doing everything she needs to do. The baby is beautiful little girl, very happy, and so I want to congratulate Mrs. Martinez on what she's been able to accomplish throughout the case.
Thank you, Ms. Fuller. I too want to tell you, Ms. Martinez, great job on what you're doing. Keep up the good work. Proud of you. Mr. Duenas, you've obviously had a setback. There's certainly an issue if we're still testing positive after beginning outpatient. This can sometimes be normal as part of recovery, relapse, but it can't continue to happen. Otherwise, that means that we're obviously not addressing the issue appropriately. So as I told you both back on June the 21st, this is the least restrictive way we can address issues and allow you both to continue on in your lives with your child without the court being involved or the department being involved in your life. Ms. Martinez, you're on the right track, to getting this thing closed out. Mr. Duenas, we're struggling with this drug issue. So I'm going to encourage you just to keep working hard and keep participating in these services. And I don't know who you're talking to or who your counselor is, but you need to explore the idea of whoever it is that you have used with in the past, wherever it is that you've used, whatever activities you were involved in where you need to get away from that. Talk to your counselor about that and talk to whoever else you're working with about changing your daily habits, because if you keep those the same, then you're going to continue to wind up in the same situations where you've used before. We're going to be right back in this boat again. There's also whatever it is that brought us here, whatever issues you need to talk to your counselor about, we need to explore those too, because that's where a lot of drug use stems from, as well as we all have learned in the course of doing this work and research and education. So be exploring those things. We're going to come back for a compliance hearing on November the 12th at 11:30. November 12th, 2024 at 11:30. I'm going to find that Ms. Martinez is in compliance with her TFF court ordered services. I'm going to find that Mr. Duenas is not at this time, but I don't want that to discourage you, Mr. Duenas. I want that to motivate you. You've got to get this figured out. Your child deserves it, and you deserve it, and so does your child's mother. I'm going to find that the child received an ECI evaluation and that those issues are progressing in Bexar County. It's best interest to keep the child in the care, or not in the care, but best interest to keep the Texas Families First case open at this time. And again, we'll have that compliance hearing November 12th at 11:30. Anything I failed to address, Mr. McCaskill?
No, Judge.
Okay. All parties are excused. Thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you.
54 Judicial District Court in Medina
Thank
County,
you.
Texas. Court is streaming via Zoom and YouTube from the courthouse in Kendall County, Texas. Are there any objections?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
With that, Mr. Dolezal, would you please begin the announcements?
Yes, John Dolezal here for the department.
Rochelle Acevedo for the father, Jose Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, can you please announce?
Yes, I just unmuted.
Okay.
Yes, I'm Jose Gonzalez.
All right. Thank you.
Richard Slaughter covering for Kathleen Savage for the mother. Ms. Haley, will you unmute and announce, please?
Yes.
You need to state your name, please, ma'am.
Sorry, Haley Ackle.
Okay, and please leave your video on. We're in court.
Alana Pearsall, attorney for the child. I'm ready.
We're here today for an adversary hearing. Mr. Dolezal, before we went on the record, I think you said that you believe the parties had an agreement. Is that the case?
Yes, it is, Your Honor. Well, all but the ad litem for the children. She has an issue with the amount of time for visits for the parents. But everyone else is in agreement.
Okay, let's go over the agreed items first, and I'll get everybody's agreement to what's agreed, and then we'll take up the disputed time.
Okay, it is agreed that the department shall have temporary managing conservatorship of the child, Raphael, that the parents will be possessories. They will have visitation. The amount of time is one of the issues that's unresolved, or is the issue. We will have an FGC in the near future where services for the parents will be determined. They understand they have 1 year or up to 1 year to work those services. And if they do it appropriately and demonstrate that they've learned from the services, they will get their children back. That's all I can think of right now, Your Honor.
Okay. Did you all discuss child support or medical support? Or will we be deferring that at this time?
Yeah, we're deferring that, Your Honor.
Okay. And where's the child placed right now, Ms. Valdez?
Your Honor, the child is currently placed in the home of the paternal grandparents, Domingo and Dora Gonzalez.
And is that the placement that you are asking the court to continue today?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Is it safe and appropriate in meeting the needs of the children?
Yes, Your Honor.
And it's in Raphael's best interest to remain there?
Yes, Your Honor.
You heard, go ahead, Mr. Dolezal.
Yeah, the parties agreed that the child would remain with the Gonzalez's.
Okay. Ms. Valdez, you heard the services that Mr. Dolezal said the parties discussed?
Yes, I have, Your Honor.
All right. And do you believe that those services are in the best interest of the child?
I do, Your Honor.
Do you believe that they're reasonable and necessary?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And do you believe that there was a danger to the physical health or safety of the child and caused by an act or failure to act of the person entitled to possession, and for the child to remain in the home is contrary to the welfare of the child?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you believe an urgent need for protection required the immediate removal of the child, and reasonable efforts consistent with the circumstances and providing for the safety of the child were made to eliminate or prevent the removal?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you believe reasonable efforts have been made to enable the child to return home, but there's a substantial risk of continuing danger if the child is returned home?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do the parties stipulate to the reasonable efforts listed in the affidavit?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Valdez, to your knowledge, is everything that was in the affidavit that you submitted still true and correct today?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Just briefly for the record, tell me what specific reasonable efforts were made to enable the child to return home.
During the court, oh yes, Your Honor.
And reasonable efforts that were made to enable the parents to keep possession, and what continuing dangers existed.
During the course of the investigation, multiple attempts were made to renew the safety plan and to engage the family and services. At the time of removal, the department had been continuing searching efforts for Haley, the mother, and the child, Raphael. The concerns were for the ongoing substance use that were not able to be effectively addressed in the investigation. And so at the time of removal, exigent circumstances were met, as there was no appropriate caregiver.
All right. Mr. Saldivar, you heard the agreement that Mr. Dozels put on the record. Is that your understanding of the agreement with the exception of the visitation time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Acevedo?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Pearsall, with the exception of the visitation, is that your understanding of the agreement?
Yes, Your Honor. We also agreed, I'm not sure if Mr. Dozel stated that the visits to begin with will be in Hondo CPS office.
I don't know if Ms. Pearsall agreed to that. If she did, then we have an agreement on that issue.
Okay, well, let me take up the whole concept of visitation at the end here. I just want to make sure I have the agreement straight with everybody else. Ms. Ockel and Mr. Gonzalez, could you both unmute, please? Did you both hear the agreement that was stated on the record? I need you to answer with your voice so that we can take a record of it.
The agreement for the visitation?
I'm not talking about visitation right now. I'm talking about everything else that was agreed. Did you both hear the agreement?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Do you both understand the agreement?
I kind of, not entirely.
Did you talk to your attorney about it?
I did, yesterday.
And this morning?
Yes, this morning it was, I did.
Okay. So do you understand the agreement or do you not understand the agreement?
I guess, I guess I'm just trying to understand what, like, the agreement, what it entitles.
All right, Mr. Saldivar, I'm going to put you back in the room with Ms. Ockel. We're going to take a brief recess so that you can talk to her a little bit more.
Your Honor, whenever you address the court.
Okay. Let's go back on the record.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Your Honor, after discussing the case with Ms. Eckel, she would like to contest this case. Unfortunately, I don't have the details to move forward on a contested matter. The only thing I received was that mom was in agreement from Kathleen, Judge, and so I'd ask for a reset at this time. She's not in agreement to what the agreement was stated today.
Judge, and I believe this case has already been reset once, so I don't think the court can reset it again.
Well, the problem I have is that Mr. Saldivar is standing in for Ms. Savage, and I don't think he's prepared in the sense to put on her case for her today.
Yes, and Judge, I did try to check Ms. Savage. I believe she's in trial right now in another county, so I haven't been able to get a hold of her.
All right, we're gonna start the adversary hearing. I'm gonna recess it. Ms. Greenlee, when can we come back?
I'm thinking it's gonna have to be that July 1st date. How much time are we gonna need?
Your Honor, I have 2 witnesses.
How many witnesses?
2.
Well, we won't know how many witnesses Ms. Savage is going to need until she talks to Ms. Ockel.
I mean, I can set it at 10:30 and there's a 1:30 hearing.
On
But
July
I can set
1st?
it. I'm sorry?
On July 1st?
Yes.
And Your Honor, I have a family reunion scheduled in Indiana that I've paid for the trip already for July 1st and 2nd.
Then we'd have to come back the 8th.
Hang on. Let's hold off before we go any further out. All right. We're going to call this case this morning. We're going to begin the adversary, and then I'm going to recess it. And we're going to come back and finish it on June 25th. Ms. Greenlee, what time did you say?
9:30.
At 9:30. and I'm giving it 2 hours max.
Judge, can I make a suggestion?
Go ahead.
Can we do 262 as to the father and then maybe handle mom's 262 at the 60-day, which will give us more flexibility?
No, I want to do it all at once. I have something I want to say to Ms. Ockel, but I want to call this case first. And I've called the case. I want to start this adversary this morning, and we're going to conclude it on the 25th.
And Judge, I'm not available on the 25th. I have 3
You've got to get
contested.
coverage. You've got to get coverage because we don't have any other dates. Miss Greenlee and I were trying to find availability for this hearing in the next 2 weeks, and it's slim. So
Can we start this hearing at 11 on the 25th? And go 2 hours from 11 to 1?
is there any issue with that, Miss Greenlee?
No, I don't think so.
All right, then we'll do it at 11 on the 25th.
Thank you, Honor.
Welcome. All right, Mr. Doles, call your first witness, please.
Yes, Angela Valdez, Your Honor. How long have you been an investigator?
I've been in with the department going on 2 years in January.
And before that, were you in law enforcement?
Before that, I was interning with the Department of Homeland Security.
Okay. All right. In any event, are you the primary investigator in this case?
I am, yes.
From the very beginning of the initial intake?
No,
All right. But you're aware of what the intakes were?
that is correct.
Were there more than one intake or was it just one?
There was more than one intake.
How many?
There were a total of 2 referrals that the department received.
And when is the date of the first one?
The first one was received on November 10th of 2023.
And the second?
The second one was received to the department on November 11th, 2023.
All right. Let's talk about the first intake. What was it?
The first intake came in for concerns with the positive toxicology following the birth of Raphael for amphetamines in his meconium and his urinalysis, in addition to a positive urinalysis from mother, Haley Apple.
And then on the 11th, what was the intake?
The 11th was an intake that came in essentially with the same concerns. However, in addition to, there were domestic violence concerns that were expressed by Miss Apple, as she alleged that Mr. Gonzalez had put something in her drink on occasion to make her test positive for amphetamines.
All right. So she recognized there was a positive drug test, but she alleged that it was because the father was putting something in her drink.
That is correct.
All right. And did the child, Raphael, have any other condition other than the positive drug testing?
Yes, the child Raphael also tested positive for syphilis.
Okay. Your Honor, how much farther do you want me to go?
We can stop there. Thank you. And the court's going to recess the adversary hearing, as I told the parties. We're going to resume it June 25th, 2024 at 11 a.m. via Zoom. And I want to make sure something's very clear to the parents. This hearing's taking place at 11 a.m. on June the 25th. If you, Ms. Ockel, if you show up and say that you hired another attorney, I don't care. We're moving forward. If you show up and say that you don't want the attorney that's been appointed to you, I don't care. You'll represent yourself. We're moving forward. Do you understand? All right.
She's on mute.
Well,
I do.
all right. So we'll see you back to conclude the adversary hearing. The court's going to continue all orders that remain in effect at this time. And all parties are excused. Thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you.
Don't see an attorney for the state.
Your Honor, I had to send him the link. He had the Wednesday docket. He's hopping on right now.
Okay. Ms. Ockel, I need you to take the gum out of your mouth for the court hearing, please.
It's a minute. I'm sorry.
While we're waiting for Mr. Dozel, I'm going to go ahead and start calling the case in the 454 Judicial District Court of Medina County, Texas. Court is streaming via Zoom and YouTube from Kendall County, Texas. I'll wait till Mr. Dozel gets here for any objections. Miss Knopf, would you please begin the announcements for the state?
Christy Cannot, Permanency Supervisor, observing.
Alexandra Vanderbilt, Investigation Supervisor, observing as well.
Kathleen Savage, attorney for the respondent mother, Haley Ackle. She's present, Your Honor, already. Haley, if you will unmute and announce your name for the record.
Haley Ackle.
Yeah, Avon St. James, Child Protective Investigations, observing.
Alana Pearsall, attorney for child ready.
Bianca Martinez, I'm supervisor for the removing worker in Bear County.
Mr. Gonzalez, I need you to unmute and announce, please, sir.
Jose Gonzalez.
All right, thank you. I need you to put the phone down. Are you in the same room with Ms. Ackle?
Yes.
Okay. You either need to be in completely separate rooms or you need to be on the same device. And the device needs to be still. You can't keep shaking it around. And if you're on two devices in the same room, we're going to hear an echo. So you got to get rid of one device or you need to go into another room with a wall separating you.
Okay. Just one.
Is somebody planning on calling Domingo Gonzalez as a witness?
I do not, Your Honor. I don't know if the department will be.
Okay.
Honor, I'm going to call Mr. Dizzo.
I may call Mr. Gonzalez.
Okay. Well, we're waiting on Mr. Dozel, so we can't really do anything yet. Let me get the attorneys in a breakout room. We're also waiting on Ms. Acevedo, and here she is. Okay. I want to talk to the attorneys in a breakout room really quick. All right, Mr. Dozel, if you could please announce for the record.
Yes, John Dozel for the department, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, we're here today for a 262 full adversary hearing. We were originally here June the 21st, and the court reset the hearing because the mother was not in agreement with the terms. My understanding is that it's possible the father may still be in agreement with the terms. Ms. Acevedo, I know you're also conflicted this afternoon, so I'll allow you to call Mr. Gonzalez out of turn to find out where he stands with the agreement and paternity. So you may do so now.
Okay. Thank you, and Mr. Gonzalez, we were here previously with regard to, and I think you just muted. We were here previously, and at that time you were in agreement.
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
We had some technical difficulties right now. I missed like all of that.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Don't touch your device again. Go ahead, Ms. Acevedo.
Mr. Gonzalez, we've discussed being in agreement with the terms of this case.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and are you in agreement with what we have discussed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and Raphael is actually placed with your parents, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and with regard to that, you are not on the birth certificate?
No, ma'am.
Do you believe that this is your child?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any reason to doubt that he's your child?
No, ma'am.
Are you asking the court to acknowledge that paternity and name you the legal father today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And one of the things that was outside of the agreement was the visitation. Do you believe that your parents would monitor the visitation for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you asking the court to consider either having your visits over there or at minimum having a portion of your visitations over there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'll pass, Rich.
Mr. Dozel.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Gonzalez, I have a few questions for you. I know you're agreeing, but I'm not sure what you're agreeing to. Are you agreeing that the department will have temporary management conservatorship of Raphael, your son?
Yes.
And that in the next year, you'll have an opportunity to work services in an effort to get your son back?
Yes, sir.
And if you do those services appropriately, that should be what happens?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you understand that if you don't do those services and the court determines that you haven't done those services appropriately and maybe some other things happened during the meantime that would cause this case to look worse for you, you understand that your rights to Raphael may be restricted or terminated.
Yes, yes, I'm very well aware of that.
Okay, are you aware of the reasons why the department took removed Raphael from your custody?
Yes, sir.
And the reasons were being drug use.
Yes, sir.
Are you admitting to that?
Am I admitting to drug use, or am I admitting to that's the reasons?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and just because that wasn't clear, I guess you're admitting that to drug use, that was the cause of Raphael being removed. Your drug use.
What?
Just so we're clear, you're admitting that you had used drugs.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Savage, any questions for the father?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Pearsall?
Has the mother used any drugs that you're aware of?
Excuse me, what was that?
Has the mother used any drugs?
That I'm aware of?
Yes.
Not that I'm aware of.
Are you aware that she accused you of putting illegal drugs in her drink?
Yes, I reviewed the pleadings and I'm aware of what
Have you ever done that?
No.
Okay, so if she is testing positive, it's because of something she has done, not something you did to her, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Was your child born positive for any substances?
Yes.
What substances was a child born positive for?
Methamphetamine.
And at the child's birth, the mother also tested positive for methamphetamines, correct?
Correct.
No other questions.
You have any other redirect for your client, Ms. Acevedo?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to ask him a question. Mr. Gonzalez, Ms. Acevedo asked you questions about paternity of Raphael, and you stated that you were his father. I want to make sure you understand, if the court adjudicates you today as his father, it's done. So you have no doubt in your mind.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're not asking for a DNA test.
No, Your Honor.
You're asking this court to adjudicate you as the father of Raphael Ockel, born November 10th, 2023, to Haley Ockel as the father, the biological father, without any further testing or any further evidence.
Yes, Your Honor. I am the father.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any other questions for Mr. Gonzalez?
Just a couple more, Your Honor. If I could.
Well, go ahead.
Mr. Gonzalez, at the time that Raphael was removed, were you incarcerated?
When he was removed recently, May 18th,
Yeah.
or when he was born?
Well, when he was born, yes.
When he was born, I was incarcerated.
And you were incarcerated, as I understand it, from September of 2023 until February, or the end of February of 2024?
No, it was September 2023 to January 2024.
Okay. And that incarceration was because you had been charged with possession of illegal substances, of drugs.
Yes. Yes, I originally got arrested in 2019 for a drug possession charge, and I was placed on probation for the next 5 years. Unfortunately, I messed up on my probation and they revoked it and they sentenced me to 2 years to TDC.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Any other questions for Mr. Gonzalez? All right. The court has heard Mr. Gonzalez's testimony and his agreement to the services in this case. Court has heard Mr. Gonzalez's testimony regarding his wish for the court to adjudicate him in this case. and that he is unequivocally, without a doubt, the father of the child, Raphael. I would like to hear some more evidence from the mother regarding this before I adjudicate him. However, I do believe that I've heard what I need to hear from Miss Acevedo's part, and if there's no objections, I'd like to excuse her at this time, if she's okay with it, to go to her other hearing. Is there any problem with that?
No objection, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor, no objection.
No objections.
Okay. Ms. Acevedo, you are excused, and we will proceed as to the mother now.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. All right. Just as a matter of housekeeping, my understanding is the state has 2 witnesses. Mr. Dolezal projects that to take about half an hour or so. Ms. Savage has 1, somewhere in the area of 20 to 30 minutes. And Ms. Pearsall has 1, possibly estimating about 10 minutes. So we're looking at about another 70 minutes on this hearing, an hour and 10 minutes. I said I would give it 2 hours, and I'm not going to go over 2 hours, so use your time accordingly. And I'll let you each know when you're about at your time limit so that we can keep track of this. It's 11:26 now. We started this at 11:15 for all intents and purposes. Mr. Dolezal, unless somebody has any other housekeeping issues, you can call your first witness.
Well, Your Honor, we had already called and had Ms. Valdez on the stand, and she's been sworn in already.
All right, so Ms. Valdez, and I do want to make sure that's clear for the record that we did commence this on June 21st, and we are resuming it. And if I didn't make that clear at the outset, I apologize. So I'll allow Mr. Dolezal to resume his questioning of Ms. Valdez. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. So when we ended last time, we had gone over what the intakes were in the case, correct?
Correct.
And your background.
Correct.
And my next question then is, as a result of the intakes, was an investigation initiated?
Yes, an investigation was initiated.
All right. And at the time the investigation was initiated, did the mother make any admissions in the case?
She did.
If you would, go ahead and state those for the record.
There were admissions as to how the positive tests could have come about, to include Mr. Gonzalez putting something in her drink. There was admittance. I'm going to object to narrative, Your Honor.
Yeah, let's do a question and answer format, please.
All right. Were there any other admissions made by Ms. Eckel?
Yes, ongoing concerns for her mental health that she advised.
All right. Did she give you the name of the father at that time?
No.
And was that the last time that anyone from the department was able to talk to her for a period of time?
Yes, that's correct.
So that would have been on what date did this conversation where she gave these admissions, when did that occur?
That would have been back in November.
You remember the precise date?
The day of initiation. I'm gonna object to, or I guess if I can take her on voir dire, Your Honor. I don't know if these admissions were made to this worker or a different worker.
You can take her on voir dire.
Ms. Valdez, these statements that you are testifying to that occurred in November, were they made to you or in your presence? They weren't. Okay, so you were present at the time of these statements by Ms. Eckel? No. Who were these statements made to? They were made to an individual that's no longer with the department. Okay, so you have no personal knowledge of these statements? We have personal knowledge per her documentation and the interactions that she's had with my supervisor as well. But these statements were not made to you, nor were they made in your presence? That's correct. Okay. Your Honor, I'm going to re-urge my objection on lack of personal knowledge and hearsay.
We're talking about statements of the mother, correct?
Yes, Your Honor, made to a worker who's not here, unless those are specifically in the case file, the very verbatim statement. I don't think that's admissible.
Ms. Valdez, where did you find these statements?
In the documentation and in the discussions that I've had with the coworker.
Are the statements that you're testifying to here today the statements that are in the documentation?
Correct.
Is that documentation used in the ordinary course of business?
Yes.
Do you have any reason to doubt the veracity of that documentation as being part of your case file?
No.
Objections overruled. You can continue, Mr. Dozel.
Right, thank you, Your Honor. So you indicated that the conversation that was had with Ms. Ockel about the admissions that we talked about, those occurred in November.
Correct.
What was the specific date?
The specific day would have been November 12th, I believe.
All right, and when was the next time that anyone from the department had an opportunity to talk to Ms. Ockel?
Attempts were made. The last time would have been at the safety planning, which would have been November 20th. And then at that point, we had tried to re-implement a safety plan, which I personally went out to do in the field.
All right, let me cut you short here real fast.
Okay.
Originally, a safety plan was discussed with the parents. Is that correct, or Ms. Ockel?
With Ms. Ockel, yes.
And did she agree to that safety plan?
She did.
And what was the terms of the safety plan?
It was to have a 24/7 supervision monitor.
All right, of the parents with the child.
Yes, Ms. Ockel.
All right. Then subsequently, was that, well, how long does a safety plan normally last?
30 days.
And was a safety plan initiated in this case?
Attempts were made to, yes, but no.
All right, what happened?
They refused to renew the safety plan. The monitor at the time refused to open the door. And Ms. Ockel was non-responsive.
All right, and what was the date that safety plan was refused?
It would have been December 28th.
All right, and when was the very next time that the department had any contact with the mother?
The day of the exigent removal.
Which
May
was?
18th. May 18th.
Okay. In the meantime, did anyone from the department have any kind of contact with Mr. Gonzalez or Ms. Ockel?
No.
Did we know where they were at?
No.
Did that cause you concern?
Yes.
Was Raphael with the parents or Ms. Ockel at the time that we lost track of her?
Yes.
So what did we do to try and contact her?
We attempted to reach her by the phone numbers that we had. We had a special investigator that ended up having to be assigned. The family was placed on a child safety alert. Multiple attempts were made at the last known residence of Janine Goat's maternal grandmother, and attempts were unsuccessful.
All right. Was the child ultimately placed on the child safety alert list?
Yes, that is correct.
And during this time period when we lost contact with mother, when she was lost with her child, did we attempt to locate and find the parental grandparents to the child?
Yes.
And let me ask you this too. Did we have any contact with Mr. Gonzalez, the father, during this period of time?
No.
Did we have any idea where he was?
No.
And for all the same reasons you talked about with mother, were we also trying to find Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes, we were.
All right. So who are the parental grandparents in this case?
Domingo and Dora Gonzalez.
And how did we locate them?
We had a tip-off from the special investigator. A business card had been left from a courtesy worker, and Domingo Gonzalez actually reached out to my upper management, inquiring about what this could be about.
All right. And did we make contact with Mr. Gonzalez in person subsequently?
Yes.
Did Mr. Gonzalez have any idea as to what was going on with CPS and his grandson, Raphael?
No, he had no idea.
Was the circumstances where CPS was involved in the life of his grandchild, his son, and his daughter-in-law, was that discussed with Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
What was his reaction when he was told what was going on?
He was in shock. They both were.
All right. And did Mr. Gonzalez say how long he had been taking care of Raphael?
Yes, he had stated that for the months that we had been looking for them, we narrowed down a timeline that they had been there the whole time.
By they, are you referring to Raphael?
Yes, Ms. Ackle and Jose Gonzalez and Rafael, yes.
Is it your understanding that all three of them were staying with the parental grandparents, Mr. and Mrs.
Yes.
Gonzalez? All right. Is it possible that you might be mistaken about that?
No.
All right. All right. And in any event, did the department, and I'm going to rely again on your review of the records and impact statements in this case, indicate what happened when the department went to visit with the Gonzalezes and after he was told about what was going on, or they were told? What happened?
At that point, we had reason to believe that Ms. Ackle would leave with Raphael. We didn't have an appropriate caregiver. And so at that point, we had to stop it for exigent removal of the child.
All right. We had before knowledge that the mother had absconded with Raphael, and this was a possibility again when we were visiting with the Gonzalezes.
Correct.
How is it that well, at that point in time, did you consider well, let me ask a few more questions about what happened while the department was there. Did Ms. Ackle appear, or was she present during that time period that the department talked to the grandparents?
He was.
She was? Ms.
She was
Ackle?
present at the day of the exigent removal, yes.
Okay. So what was her response to the department being there and talking to them about the allegations in the case?
She became irate, aggressive. Law enforcement had to be called out.
Okay. And was it after this point that you made a decision to call for an exigent removal?
Yes.
All right. At that time, do you believe that the parents' conduct, the drug use, the fact that the mother had absconded with Raphael in the past, that the possibility of her doing this again constituted a danger to the physical health or safety of Raphael?
Yes.
And do you believe that the circumstances created an urgent need?
Objection leading.
Your Honor.
Well, I mean, he's following the statute. Overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you believe that this that this constituted a danger to the physical health or safety of Raphael?
Absolutely, yes.
And that it was contrary to the welfare of Raphael to remain with his parents?
Yes.
Do you believe that the circumstances created an urgent need for protection of Raphael, requiring an immediate removal of Raphael?
Yes.
And did the department, including you, make reasonable efforts to prevent the removal of Raphael and to return Raphael to his home with the parents?
Yeah. Yes.
What were those things?
Safety plans were attempted to re-implement. The day of exigent removal, we attempted to safety plan with the parents once more. They refused.
All right.
Attempts. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted.
It's okay. In addition to services and.
So we made an effort to offer the parents services at that time in lieu of us taking custody of Raphael.
Correct.
Do you believe there's a substantial risk of a continuing danger if Raphael is returned home?
Yes.
And do you believe it's in the best interest of Raphael that he remain in the custody of the department?
Yes.
Is it the plan to keep Raphael at this time with his paternal grandparents?
That is the plan, yes.
I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Savage.
Yes, Miss Valdez, you testified that the last contact with the mother from November 28th was not until May 18th, but in the affidavit, contact was made by with her by phone early February. Is that correct? That's correct, yes. Okay, and then again in April, were you able to make contact with Miss Ackle or someone from the department? We were, yes. Okay, so there are multiple times between the initial safety plan and the exigent removal where contact with Miss Ackle was successfully made. Is that correct? Successful, but not in the safety planning, yes. Okay, and you referenced services being offered. Were services offered to Miss Ackle back in November of 2023? Back in December, when the safety plan was attempted to be renewed, family-based services was offered to the family and she refused. Okay, so my question was, back in November, when the safety plan was originally implemented, no services were offered to her. Is that correct? To my knowledge, correct, yeah. Okay, so baby test positive, and you implement a safety plan, but the department doesn't have enough concerns to offer the mother any actual services when that safety plan goes into effect, correct? It was in the preliminary. We were still assessing what services would have been appropriate. And do you know what specific services were offered to the mother? Family-based, mental health treatment, drug assessment, drug testing. Do you know what providers information she was given? We didn't get to that point. Okay. And were you present at the day of removal of Rafael? My upper management, my supervisor, Bianca Martinez and Dina Schiebelbein were present, and the courtesy worker, yes. Okay. So you have no personal knowledge of Rafael's physical appearance or how he came in to the department's care on that day of the removal? The courtesy worker did, yes, the department. Okay. I'll pass this witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Pearsall.
No questions, Your Honor.
Any other questions, Mr. Dozel?
Just a couple follow-ups. Let's talk about the, Ms. Valdez, the April and February phone contacts with Ms. Ackle. During those phone calls, did she offer any information whatsoever that would allow us to know her location?
No, she refused.
Or the father's location?
Refusal.
Or the parental grandparents' location or address?
No.
During the course of this investigation, were drug tests offered to the mother?
Yes.
And did she accept those offers? Did she undergo any testing?
No.
Why not?
She refused.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Next witness, Mr. Dozel.
Yes, called Domingo Gonzalez, Your Honor. Okay, so Daniel Gonzalez is your son.
That's correct.
Now, I think there was testimony that you were actually caring for Rafael for some period of time. Is that correct?
That's correct. From
How long?
December 27th to the present, we were caring for Rafael for the majority of that time. He did spend some time with Haley and her parents, but the majority of the time the baby was with us.
All right. Now, was Haley living with you during the time that Rafael was being cared for?
No, not all the time.
But
the majority of the time, it was just my wife, myself, and Daniel with Rafael.
All right. Now, you heard testimony too that it's the department's statement that you had no idea that CPS was involved in the life of Rafael during the time you cared for him.
That's correct.
And what was your reaction when you found out the reasons why Rafael was being searched for?
We were just devastated by the news to learn that our grandson had been born with drugs in the system and syphilis. That's pretty difficult, pill to swallow.
That's the first time you ever became aware of that,
Yes,
when the department was there and ultimately took custody of Raphael.
yes.
All right. So on the day that the department came to visit you for the first time, and you found out about CPS being in the life of Raphael, can you tell me what happened after that, when they explained to you why Raphael was being searched for?
Well, we were, like I said, my wife and I were devastated. We just couldn't imagine that all of this was happening, and we had no knowledge of it. Had we had some indication, we could have brought this issue to the forefront months before, not months later.
All right. Now, at the time that the department came to your home, were Haley and Daniel, the mother and father, living with you?
Yes, they had been staying with us for about 2 or 3 weeks.
All right. And after the removal of Raphael, did the parents stay in your home?
No, they were asked to leave, and they left reluctantly, but they left.
All right. Did the parents leave any possessions behind that you found?
Yes.
What were those possessions?
We found 2 needles in Haley's cosmetic bag, and then there was some substance that was underneath the bed where they slept. It appeared to be some form of narcotic.
All right. Where did Raphael sleep during the time that the parents were in that bedroom?
The majority of the time, he slept with us.
All right. Did he ever sleep in that bedroom?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So he would have been possibly in contact with the substance.
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation. Speculation as to what that substance is, speculation that the child would have had access to it, speculation it would have been there when the child slept in the room.
You can clean up on cross, but I am going to ask you to rephrase that last question, Mr. Dolzel.
All right. Let me just change the question, Your Honor, at this point in time. How often would Raphael sleep in the room with his parents?
Not often. Because a lot of times they would leave in the afternoons, and I come back there early in the morning. So my wife and I pretty much slept with Raphael.
All right. Was there any chance that Raphael would have been in contact with the substance that was on the floor that you found?
Not on the floor, but it had to have fallen from somewhere.
All right. Do you have any idea what other reason the parents would have had needles in the bedroom?
Not to my knowledge.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Savage.
Mr. Gonzalez, while Miss Haley or Miss Ackle was in your home, she never appeared under the influence, in your opinion. Is that correct?
That's not correct. Her attitude reflected in several cases of someone who was under the influence of a drug.
Okay, so you were allowing a drug user who was actively high in your home around your grandson?
We were afraid that she was going to take over the baby.
When she was interacting with Raphael, was she appropriate and attentive to his needs?
She rarely interacted with our grandson. Now, my son did, but Haley rarely interacted with my grandson.
When she did, though, was she attentive to Raphael?
If you mean she just carried him, because that's all she did.
And you don't positively know what the substance you found on the floor was. Is that correct?
No, I don't. But one of the interviewers that came by the house was a former FBI agent, and I showed it to him.
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for I believe he's going to tell us the statements.
That's sustained. Yeah, let's get around that some other way.
Mr. Gonzalez, you do not definitively know with your own personal knowledge what that substance was, correct?
No, that's correct.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Pearsall.
No questions.
Redirect state.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Any redirect from the state.
No, Your Honor.
Actually,
We'll rest.
okay. Then there's no further questions from Mr. Gonzalez. The department rests. Ms. Savage, first witness.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to call Miss Ackle.
All right, Ms. Ackle, please unmute. You've been sworn. You're under oath. Go ahead, Ms. Savage.
Miss Ackle, the department's here today requesting custody of your son. Do you believe that the department's concerns have been validated?
Objection leading, Your Honor.
No,
Yes or no, Your Honor? She can.
I do not agree.
I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
Ms. Ackle, when the department first made contact with you in November, did you agree to the safety plan?
I did.
Okay. And did the department ask you to complete any services at that time?
They did not.
Okay. And then from November until May, what services did the department provide to you, if any?
They did not provide me any services or drug testing options.
In your communications with the department, did you provide them an address where they could find you?
Yes, I met with my caseworker 2 times at my mom's address because that's where I live.
Okay. And did you offer to meet with them at your mother's home?
I did offer to schedule a time. That way they didn't miss me or I didn't miss them. So we could meet.
Okay. And did you on multiple occasions ask the department what concerns they had for why they were continuing to make contact with you?
Objection leading, Your Honor.
Same.
During this, from November when your son was born until May, were any new intakes to your knowledge called in on you?
Objection
Or-
leading.
Your Honor,
I'll
that's
allow it, or we'll be here all day. Overrule.
there were no new intakes, Ms. Ackle?
There were not.
Okay. And did the department inform you that they had any new concerns arise?
They did not.
So to your understanding, it was all from the positive drug test at birth, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. When your son was removed, who were the workers who showed up to your home?
There was one lady at the very end who briefly spoke to me and Daniel, and I don't know who she is. I've never seen her before ever. She said she was like I was filling in for someone. I've never seen her before ever.
Okay. But the day of removal, did the workers make any statements as to Raphael's physical condition?
On the 18th?
Yes.
No, like I was in the phone call was being taken place away from me because it was all on the phone, on speakerphone, and so I don't know what was said. However, on the 16th, whenever I did meet with my caseworker and the detective that was put on the case, they did make a statement about his well-being and overall.
What statement did they make to you on May 16th regarding Raphael?
They said that he looks great and they have no reasons or concerns that he's endangered or that they have any problems with.
Okay. And did either one of them ask you to drug test on that day?
No.
Would you be willing to work services if the court were willing to return Raphael to your care?
I will work services.
Okay. But you are asking the court to allow Raphael to be returned to you while you work services to address any concerns the department may have.
That would be great. That would be great.
And the home that you would ask them to return Raphael to is the home of your mother, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And she has custody of your other 2 children? Or she's a manager?
Yes.
Okay. And so that home, has been found safe for your other kids, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Is there anything else you would want the court to be aware of before deciding this hearing today?
I do feel like the attempts to contact were very, very minimal, if any. I was not offered services until February, and I was told that I would have a
I'm
phone
going to
call.
object to narrative, Your Honor.
Same.
Okay. All
Okay,
I know
Ms.
is that my dad passed away, and shortly
Your
after
Honor, you sustained the objection.
Okay.
I did. I sustained it.
Ms. Hackle, was there
Your Honor.
any other contributing factors that prevented you from getting immediately engaged in services?
I didn't know where to go to. I was told that it has to be something that CPS lead, because if there's many services out there, but if it's not one that CPS goes through directly, then it won't count. And then it, like financial, some do costs.
Okay.
However, me and Daniel both have looked into
All right, we're
them.
getting into a narrative again.
That's what I'm gonna say.
Your Honor, I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Dolezal.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. You indicated that your mother has custody of 2 of your children, correct?
3.
3 children. I'm sorry. And is that correct?
That is correct.
And the reason your mother has custody is as a result of prior removals that you had by CPS and other litigation.
That is correct.
And those removals were all due to drug use. Is that correct?
That is not correct.
What was the reason then?
The reason was I didn't finish my services on time.
All right, but the original removal of the children was due to drug use.
No, it was actually due to they said that there was physical abuse, is what they said.
Between
Domestic violence. I'm sorry.
Who was the physical abuse between?
They said that I was the perpetrator.
Of which? The children?
Yes, that's correct. That was alleged.
All right, you acknowledged that Raphael was removed because both you and Raphael had positive drug tests.
Like removed on the 18th. That is because when you say he was removed on.
It's a simple question.
Well,
both you
I guess that would be the leading. That would be
Ms. Ockel, when the attorneys are talking, you don't talk. Otherwise, the court reporter can't record this. Okay? So let them lead the discussion. Let them lead the questionings. Answer the questions that you're asked. Go ahead, Mr. Dolezal.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Will you acknowledge, or do you acknowledge that the reason that CPS got involved with Raphael, your son, and you and Mr. Gonzalez is because you and Raphael were found positive for meth?
That's correct.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Stursall.
Thank you, Your Honor. You admit that Raphael tested positive for meth at birth, correct?
That's correct.
And you also tested positive for meth when he was born, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you would agree with me that Raphael didn't use meth on his own, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So when was the last time you used meth prior to giving birth to Raphael?
To be honest, I can't pinpoint that date.
Why not?
I can't pinpoint. I don't know. It was, I can't. I wasn't taking like a note of it, I guess.
So how often did you use meth while pregnant with Raphael?
Honestly, there were a few times.
A few times being 5 or a few times being 3 times a week? Tell me what that means.
3 times. I would say there were probably a few times, like here and there, like it wasn't like a consistent. It wasn't a consistent thing.
Okay, you understand for your child's medical diagnosis and treatment of his issues, it's important to know how often he was exposed to drugs prior to being born. Do you understand that?
I'm aware of that. However, like I said, it's not something that was a continuous everyday usage. It was something that was here and there, and it was, I guess, the people that I was around.
Okay, so again, how often is here and there? Was that a couple times a month, a couple times a week?
It's badgering at this point. Mom's answered to the best of her abilities.
She hasn't answered, Judge.
We've established she's used while she was pregnant.
I think I've heard what I need to hear regarding her use at this point, Ms. Pearsall. We can move on. Sustain.
Okay, thank you, Honor. How long have you had syphilis?
I don't know. I had taken I had penicillin shots that were given to me in 3 doses because I was pregnant.
And what potential issues does that expose Raphael to?
I'm sorry? What do you mean?
You having syphilis, what danger does that present to Raphael?
What does that I wouldn't know. I mean, I took the steps necessary to keep him safe during that time.
Unresponsive.
I don't know how to answer that.
Sustained, but I'm not sure you're going to get a better answer.
I think it was sufficient. She doesn't know, Judge. Was Raphael born positive for syphilis?
I was told he was not. I was told
he
he was
so you're not
fine.
aware. Okay. You believe that Raphael was absolutely fine at birth?
Yes, that's what they had told me. Okay. He weighed fine. He had no other.
Non-responsive.
Sustained.
How many other children have you given birth to?
I have 4. Oh, a total of 5.
And 3 of them were removed from you by the department and placed with your mother, correct?
That's correct.
And number 4 is Raphael. What happened to number 5?
My daughter, she lives with her father.
How old is she?
She's 7 years old. She'll be 8.
And how old are the 3 that reside with your mother?
I have a 12-year-old going on 13. I have a 9-year-old going on 10, and then I have my 4-year-old son.
So you haven't been able to parent any of your 5 children to date, correct?
That's not correct. Actually, I engage a lot with my kids at my mom's, and I do take care of my kids at my mom's.
Any other questions?
Stavage, anything else?
And Ms. Hackle, your rights to your other children have not been terminated. Your mom's just the person that they primarily reside with, correct?
That is correct.
I'll pass witness, Your Honor.
Any other questions for Ms. Apple?
Just one quick question, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Ms. Apple, have you had any diagnosis for mental health disorders?
I mean, I was told that I had anxiety and that I had postpartum depression.
Anything other than that?
PMDD, which it's not really mental, so no. That's it.
Are you still suffering from postpartum depression?
Since being separated from my son in May, I can definitely say that's contributed a lot to making it worse. I really didn't have too much depression other than my dad passing away.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Any other questions for Ms. Apple? Next witness, Ms. Savage.
We rest, Your Honor.
Ms. Pearsall?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay, let's hear argument starting with the state, and I'll give Mr. Dolezal the opportunity for rebuttal only. Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. we're asking for temporary managing conservatorship of the children. Mother has admitted to meth use during the course of her pregnancy. Nothing's been done about that in the meantime. There's no evidence whatsoever. She absconded with the child and refused to give us her location or any information concerning where she was, where her husband, or the father to Raphael was, or where the paternal grandparents where the child was located were. So we clearly believe that there would be an immediate danger to the child if he is returned to the parents. It would be contrary to his welfare, and it's in the best interest of the child that we, the department, get temporary managing and conservatorship of the child. It's our intention to allow Raphael to remain with his paternal grandparents, and we'll be asking that the parents be ordered to do services in the near future if the department gets temporary managing conservatorship. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Savage?
Your Honor, I believe the evidence shows today that there was only the one allegation back in November that the mother had been contacted multiple times throughout this case, but that the services provided or offered weren't even very firm or defined. It was, hey, you can engage in services, but no specific providers, no, hey, this is where you should go. There's no evidence there was any new allegations of drug use around Raphael from November until May. We would be asking that Raphael be returned to his mother at her mother's home where her other children are at, and that she be allowed to engage in services through a court-ordered MTP case that would allow the court to have the supervision over the mother's progress in services while allowing Raphael to be returned to his mother's care in the go-between. So we would be asking that the court deny the request for the legal removal and that an MTP be ordered instead.
Spearsall?
Judge, I think honestly, mom's testimony speaks for itself. Obviously, she's endangered this child. Sitting here today on her fifth child dealing with drugs, she still has no idea what issues it could possibly cause to a child, and she thinks the child is great. It's significant to know that despite its child's precarious start in the womb, after the child was born, he never received any medical care or any follow-up until grandparents were able to do it after department removed, and they had, the legal right to obtain this child's medical care. He is in a wonderful placement. He is very well taken care of. But obviously doing anything but the removal would be just, endangering this child.
Thank you, Ms. Pearsall. Rebuttal, Mr. Dolzel?
No, Your Honor. I mean, I think Ms. Pearsall said it correctly that mother's own testimony pretty much proves up why the department needs to get temporary managing conservatorship.
Your Honor, I apologize. Can I add one thing that I just forgot to say?
Yes.
As far as visitation, I'm asking that visits be limited to an hour a week and that they be supervised by the department only at this point for both parents.
Thank you, Ms. Pearsall. Ms. Valdez, is there any Indian child heritage in this suit?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. The court finds that both parents have appeared here today, lying through counsel. For all intents and purposes, they've made a general appearance. Court also makes finding that both parents coming into this hearing were indigent, and I'll continue their indigency status this time. Court finds that there's sufficient evidence to satisfy a person of ordinary prudence and caution that there was a danger to the physical health or safety of the child caused by an act or failure to act of the person entitled to possession, and for the child to remain in the home is contrary to the welfare of the child. The urgent need for protection required the immediate removal of the child, and reasonable efforts consistent with the circumstances and providing for the safety of the child were made to eliminate or prevent the child's removal. Reasonable efforts have been made to enable the child to return home. but there's a substantial risk of continuing danger if the child is returned home. Court finds there's no Indian child heritage in this case. Court finds that strike that. Going to order that the Department of Family Protective Services be named as the temporary managing conservator of the child. Order that the parents be named temporary possessory conservators of the child, and that the parents work services. I'm going to order the parties to have a family group conference to develop family plans of service that are narrowly tailored to address the concerns that brought Raphael into care. And the family group conference is ordered to be in person. I'm going to defer child support and medical support at this time. Maintain the placement of the child in the home of the paternal grandparents. Find that placement is safe and appropriate, meeting Raphael's needs and in his best interest to remain there. Court will order the visitation start at 1 hour per parent in Hondos, supervised by the department. If the parents want to have their 1 hour visitation together, that's fine. If they want it separately, then we need to accommodate that. We're going to be back for a status hearing on July 16th, 2024 at 10:30. July 16th, 2024 at 10:30.
Your Honor, I forgot. I do believe we just need to get some direct testimony from Ms. Ackle regarding adjudication.
You're right. I have got a note here that we need that, so I'll reopen evidence. You can ask her those questions.
Ms. Ackle, you are the mother to Raphael, is that correct?
That is correct.
And who do you believe the father to Raphael is?
Jose Daniel Gonzalez.
Okay, and are you asking the court to adjudicate him today, thereby making him the legal father to Raphael?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Any other questions? All right, and the court will find that Mr. Gonzalez has indicated on the record that he is the father of the child. The mother has also indicated that Mr. Gonzalez is the father of the child. So based on their testimony in court today, court will name Mr. Jose Gonzalez as the father of Raphael, intents and purposes, giving him all the rights and duties pursuant to the family code. And again, in this case, naming him as a temporary possessory conservator. Because the department at this point in time is a temporary managed conservator. Anything else I failed to address besides the admonishment?
Don't believe so, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Ackle and Mr. Gonzalez, the state of Texas gives parents in CPS cases 12 months to demonstrate you can provide a safe, stable, balanced, and drug-free home for your child. In the event you cannot do so, your rights to your child are subject to further restriction as they are now, or termination. You don't agree with my decision. I understand that and respect that, but I want you to understand that this case is going to last a year, barring an exception for extraordinary circumstances, or the two of you working really, really hard and buying yourself more time. But more than likely, it's only going to last a year. And that clock has already started ticking, and it's going to go by really fast. Ms. Ackle, I know you've been through this before. This is your opportunity to turn things around. It's your opportunity to make it different this time. It's your opportunity to engage in the services and figure out what it is that makes you use, for both of you. Ms. Ackle, what it is that makes you relapse, and fix that and change things. That's your choice. Lots of people that come in this court who are in the same boat as you, who make the right choice, and it's hard and it's a fight, but they figure it out. So you just got to decide which side of that coin you want to fall on. All right, I'll see you all back July 16th, 2024 at 10:30. There's nothing further. Thank you for your time and your service. All parties are excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Sutton, I need you to pull the blanket down. We're in court. Thank you. Thank you. With that, Ms. Dominguez, would you please begin the announcements?
Yes, Your Honor. Corinne Dominguez for the department.
Jimmy Dresden Mitchell, Investigation Supervisor.
Maureen Yanis, attorney writing for the mother, Alexis Sutton. Ms. Sutton, will you unmute and announce, please?
You're not unmuted, ma'am.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Alexis Sutton, the mother.
Deborah Fuller, I represent the father, Joshua Gomez, who's not present, Your Honor, but we did a pre-262 mediation. We have an agreement. So I'm ready to go forward.
Irene Acosta for the child. I'm ready.
Marcus McLemore, Hill Country Casa.
All right. Ms. Dominguez, do you want to go over the terms and conditions of the MSA, or is there somebody else that might be? Did you do the mediation for the department? Okay,
I did.
Right. Then go ahead.
All right. I'm just basically going to read it through if that's all right, Your Honor.
That's fine.
So we all reached this agreement on June 12th. Respondent father, Mr. Gomez, agrees to be named temporary possessory conservator, and the department being named temporary managing conservator. The father's visitation will be once a week for an hour, supervised by Belong. The father agrees to continue to engage in services already ordered in the companion case, which were individual counseling, domestic violence, parenting, and random drug testing, and to attend inpatient drug rehab and follow all aftercare recommendations. The respondent mother, Ms. Sutton, agrees to be named temporary possessory conservator of the child, and the department being named temporary managing conservator. The respondent mother's visitation with the child shall be twice a week for 1 hour for 2 weeks, to be supervised by Belong. After 2 weeks, the respondent mother's visitation shall be supervised by the maternal great-grandmother, as agreed to by respondent mom and the great-grandmother. The mother agrees to continue to engage in individual counseling, domestic violence classes, and OSAR eval, and follow recommendations and random drug testing. Belong agrees to assess supervised overnight visitation between the mother and the child prior to the initial permanency hearing that's in the companion case. Belong agrees to continue to consider the paternal grandmother for placement of the child. Belong agrees to provide Deborah Fuller with the incident report at the time of the child's removal regarding the paternal grandmother within 10 days.
I lost that part. Can you read that one again?
Yes, sir. Belong agrees to provide Deborah Fuller with the incident report at the time of the child's removal regarding paternal grandmother within 10 days. The parties agree to defer medical and child support at this time. Parties agree the child is not to be moved absent court order or agreement of the parties. And that's it, Your Honor. That's the agreement.
Is that your understanding of the agreements, Ms. Yanis?
It is, Judge.
Ms. Fuller?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes, Your Honor, it is.
Casa?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And for the record, I did receive the incident report, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Mitchell, you would be testifying if this was contested, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you believe that this agreement's in the best interest of the child?
Yes, sir.
And do you believe that the services that the parents are going to work are reasonable and necessary to address the concerns that brought the child into care?
Yes, sir.
And that there was a danger to the physical health or safety of the child caused by an act or failure to act of the person entitled to possession, and for the child to remain in the home is contrary to the welfare of the child?
Yes, sir.
The urgent need for protection required the immediate removal of the child, and reasonable efforts consistent with the circumstances and providing for the safety of the child were made to eliminate or prevent the child's removal.
Yes, Your Honor.
And reasonable efforts have been made to enable the child to return home, but there's a substantial risk of a continuing danger if the child is returned home.
Yes.
And would you briefly lay out to the court, for the record, the reasonable efforts that were made to enable the child to return home, and what substantial risk of continuing danger existed?
If you give me just one moment, Your Honor, if I can pull up the affidavit to refresh my memory.
That's fine. I just want it on the record.
Yes, Your Honor.
While she's doing that, I'm going to also take judicial notice for this hearing, since we're entering this agreement, that parents were both served by personal service in this case on May the 15th, 2024. Ms. Sutton, do you have the ability to pay for an attorney in this case?
No, I do not.
You don't have anything saved or anything that you can sell that would allow you to pay for an attorney?
No, I do not.
You're indigent in the other case? You have an appointed counsel in both cases, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to maintain Ms. Sutton's indigency finding and continue Ms. Giannis as her attorney. Ms. Mitchell, just let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
The department felt that removal was more necessary in this case, and more appropriate because, due to the circumstances that, a safety plan or parental child safety placement, would not adequately protect the child Jocelyn. The parents continued to test positive through their companion legal case, and at the birth of Jocelyn, and they had made little progress in the companion legal case at the time of the removal. We felt, the department felt that the case was not appropriate for family-based safety services because of the circumstances in the companion case, but as well as their previous court-ordered services in that family-based safety services case prior to the removal of the first child, where they did not complete those services.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, then the court will make the findings under the code pursuant to chapter 262-201 G 1, 2, and 3. The court will approve the agreement of the parties, find that it's in the best interest of the child, name the Department of Family Protective Services as a temporary managing conservator, name both parents as temporary possessory conservators. I'm not going to repeat everything that Ms. Dominguez already read into the record. I just want that verbatim into the order. And if you want to attach the MSA to the order, that'll be fine too. I'm deferring the child support and medical support as agreed as well. Make a finding that Ms. Fuller has indicated she received the incident report as agreed, and make sure that the parties know there's no moving the child absent a court order or agreement of the parties. We'll be back for a status hearing on July 17th, 2024 at 3. July 17th, 2024 at 3 p.m.
Yes, sir.
I have to admonish you, Ms. Sutton. I know you've heard it before. The state of Texas gives parents in CPS cases 12 months to demonstrate you can provide a safe, stable, violence, and drug-free home for your child. In the event you cannot do so, your rights to your child are subject to further restriction and or termination. Anything else I failed to address?
No, sir.
No, Your Honor. I would just ask if they know who the legal worker is going to be, if it's the same for the other case.
Anybody know?
I believe it is. It's the same.
Okay. All right. Ms. Sutton, you have some work to do. You have a lot of work to do.
Yes, sir.
You can do this. You just have to choose to do it.
Yes, sir.
And if you do it in one case, it's going to help you in the other. All right. Thank you all for your time and your service. If nothing further, all parties are excused. And that concludes our docket. I'll see you all next week.
John, can you hold on one second?
Thank you.
Yes, I will. Oh, I never heard from Miss Acosta at the end, but I think she gave me her approval, so we're okay.